you've been sold a lie. From the moment you could understand words, they told you, work hard and you'll succeed. Grind harder, hustle more, sacrifice everything. But here's what they didn't tell you. The hardest workers in human history were never the kings. They were the slaves who built the pyramids, the serfs who died in fields they'd never own, the factory workers crushed by machines they could never afford. 500 years ago, a Florentine diplomat named Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that most people still don't grasp. Effort and power are not the same thing. In fact, they're often inversely related. This isn't about being lazy. This is about understanding the difference between being the builder and being the architect. Let's start with an uncomfortable question. Who benefits when you believe that working harder is the answer to everything? Think about it. Every productivity guru, every LinkedIn influencer posting at 5 a.m., every boss praising the employee who stays late, they're all selling you the same story. Hard work equals success. Effort equals reward. Hustle equals power. But look around. The CEO of your company doesn't work harder than the janitor. The landlord collecting rent doesn't work harder than the tenant working 2 jobs. The investor earning millions in dividends doesn't work harder than the nurse pulling a double shift. According to a 2022 study by Deloitte, 70% of executives consider quitting their jobs due to burnout, despite their success. The system doesn't reward hard work. It rewards positioning. It rewards leverage. It rewards the appearance of effort more than effort itself. This is the first Machiavellian truth. The system is designed to keep you exhausted because tired people don't ask dangerous questions. Tired people don't negotiate. Tired people don't recognize they're being exploited. They just keep grinding. Here's something they don't teach you in school. Exhaustion isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that a ruler must understand the nature of power, not how to be good, but how to be effective. And one of the most effective ways to maintain power, keep people too busy surviving to think about thriving. Consider the psychology. When you're exhausted, your decision-making ability deteriorates. You become more risk-averse. You lack the energy to negotiate, organize, or resist. You're more likely to accept the status quo. A 2017 study published in Occupational Medicine found that longer working hours are directly associated with increased anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. But here's the twist. Companies know this. They know exhausted employees are easier to manage. Think about the language of modern work culture. Rise and grind. Hustle harder. Sleep is for the weak. These aren't motivational phrases. They're control mechanisms. Machiavelli understood that power operates through perception. If you can convince people that their exhaustion is a virtue, that their burnout is a badge of honor, then you've convinced them to police themselves. They'll destroy themselves willingly, believing it's the path to success. This is why hustle culture is propaganda. It transforms exploitation into aspiration. It makes you grateful for the chains. Here's a paradox that will make your blood boil. Being excellent at the wrong things will destroy your life. Let's say you're incredibly competent at your job. You deliver results, meet deadlines, and solve problems. What happens? You get more work, not more money, not more power, just more work. This is what Machiavelli would call failing to separate virtù from fortune. Virtù, your personal capability, means nothing without strategic positioning. You can be the most skilled person in the room and still be powerless. Consider these 2 employees. Employee A works 60 hours a week. She's always available, always reliable, always delivers. Her boss depends on her. But she hasn't been promoted in 5 years. Why? Because she's too valuable where she is. The company can't afford to move her. She's trapped by her own competence. Employee B works 40 hours a week. He's good at his job, but more importantly, he's good at making sure the right people see him being good at his job. He networks, he delegates, he attaches his name to successful projects, he gets promoted. This isn't about being incompetent. It's about being strategically selective about where you deploy your competence. It's about understanding that being indispensable in the wrong position is a prison sentence. The hard truth? Sometimes you need to withhold your best work, not to be lazy, but to avoid being exploited, to maintain leverage, to keep the freedom to move. Machiavelli wrote one of the most misunderstood passages in political philosophy. A prince must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Most people think this is about being ruthless. It's not. It's about understanding that different situations require different strategies. Sometimes you need force, the lion. Sometimes you need cunning, the fox. But you always need to know which is which. The lion represents direct action, the ability to work hard when it matters, to show strength, to execute. The fox represents strategic thinking, the ability to see traps, to recognize when effort is being weaponized against you, to operate indirectly. Here's what happens to people who are all lion, no fox. They work themselves to death for someone else's empire. They're strong, yes, but they're following someone else's map, someone else's plan. They're the builder, not the architect. And here's what happens to people who are all fox, no lion. They're clever, manipulative even, but they never build anything real. They're always scheming, never executing. They have no foundation. The key is balance. You need to work hard on things that compound, skills, assets, networks. Work smart on avoiding traps, exploitation, dead-end positions, energy drains. Build leverage, systems that work for you, not the other way around. Real power comes from knowing when to be which animal, when to push, when to pull back, when to show your strength, when to hide it. Let's talk about the difference between builders and architects. Builders focus on execution. They take instructions and implement them. They work hard, they're reliable, they get things done. But they're always building someone else's vision. Architects focus on design. They create the blueprint. They decide what gets built and why. They work smart, they delegate, they maintain oversight. They're building their own vision. Here's the brutal truth. Most people are trained to be builders from birth. School teaches you to follow instructions. Jobs teach you to execute someone else's strategy. Even entrepreneurship culture often just teaches you to build your own prison. You're still grinding. You've just changed bosses. The architect mindset is fundamentally different. It asks, what system am I building and who does it serve? Can this scale without my constant input? Am I trading time for money or building leverage? What's the opportunity cost of this activity? Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. In The Prince, he writes extensively about virtue, but not virtue in the moral sense. Virtue is the ability to shape fortune to your will. It's the capacity to be the architect of your circumstances rather than merely reacting to them. This doesn't mean you never work hard. It means your hard work is strategic. You're building equity in skills, in assets, in relationships, not just completing tasks. You're creating systems that generate value while you sleep. The shift from builder to architect isn't about working less. It's about working differently. It's about asking, what am I building, before asking, how hard should I work? So how do you escape the cult of effort without destroying your current situation? Machiavelli has answers. First, recognize that change must be gradual. Machiavelli wrote, "It must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out than to initiate a new order of things. Trying to revolutionize your life overnight will fail. The people benefiting from your current pattern will resist. You need to move strategically. Second, build leverage before you need it. Start creating assets, skills that are portable, income streams that are independent, relationships that transcend your current role. Do this while you're still employed, still stable. Don't wait until you're desperate. Third, master the art of strategic visibility. Be seen working on high-impact projects, not just working hard. Remember, humans judge more by appearances than reality. Make your strategic work visible to the people who matter. Fourth, learn to say no. This is the hardest skill for high performers, but every yes to someone else's priority is a no to your own. Protect your leverage, protect your energy, protect your time. Fifth, understand that you're playing a longer game. Machiavelli distinguished between securing power quickly through fortune and building lasting power through virtue. Quick wins feel good, but fade. Sustainable power comes from building systems, skills, and leverage that compound over time. Let's return to where we started. The hardest workers in history were never the powerful. They were the exploited. 500 years ago, Machiavelli understood something that modern self-help gurus refuse to acknowledge. Effort without leverage is slavery. Hard work without strategic thinking is servitude. Being busy is not the same as being powerful. The question isn't whether you should work hard. The question is, are you working hard on the right things? Are you building your empire or someone else's? Are you the architect or the builder? This isn't a call to be lazy. This is a call to be strategic, to separate effort from results, to understand that power comes not from how many hours you work, but from how intelligently you deploy those hours. The system wants you exhausted. It wants you too tired to think, too busy to plan, too distracted to build real leverage. But now, you know the truth. You can be the lion when strength is required, the fox when cunning is necessary. But most importantly, you can be the architect of your own life. The choice, as it always has been, is yours. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Mindros for more uncomfortable truths about psychology, philosophy, and power. Drop a comment about which Machiavellian principle hit you hardest. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Just don't tell your boss.